Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's September the 11th. This week's just about over. We got one more day. Tomorrow we'll be back to do it again tomorrow, but week seems to have gone by fairly quickly. And let's a couple before I get started, I want to show you a couple of things. There's some different lines on here today. I often forget to talk about this, but another trader reminded me, and I appreciate him doing that. Um, this the thinner lines here, and here, and down here are the previous high, lows, and closes of yesterday, and then the thicker lines, the green one, the yellow one, the blue one, and you can't see it, but there's a red one right under here, are the current day's open highs and lows. And those are all important areas. And I was waiting for prices to get here before thinking about a short. Notice that we got a trend working up, we got a break, move to a new high, now we're selling off. We could continue to work higher here, but notice that trap right there too. We'll talk about that when we get there. But the reason I like this is because you got your break, you're moved to a new high. It's a failed break out of the range. It's right off the highs, the closes from yesterday. It's right off the close and um, the lows. It's right off the open of yesterday. Just a lot of different reasons why you might think about going short there. Normally, I will tell you to wait on a second entry. As of now, we haven't got a second entry short off of that. Um, but I generally would rather take them off here. But I think even here was a little risky yet because we didn't have a new high. We didn't have a real bearish bar. It's kind of choppy. This looks more like a little range. And so I was expecting a possible trap. They couldn't get it through here. And I actually made some comments. You can go, if you're part of our premium session, you can go back and read that. And I was expecting them to maybe trap people right here and take it higher. And that's exactly when they can't get it through there, it'll either reverse or they'll create a trap. But if you're going to go short on a reversal, you better make sure you got a confirmed trend. And notice there's no trend right there. Now we do have a trend working here so far. So you got something a little more to work with right now than you had right here. And you can see this is trending where this is just not really trending. And when you got that double bottom and that one little tick, that's that trap they needed to take it higher, and boom. And one thing you'll always notice these important areas, you'll look how prices skip over them. See how there's no overlap between those bars. It closed on its high and opened and went higher. Look at this midline right here. It closed and then opened above and took off. It's amazing how often you will see that. And it's, that's telling you, and you'll see it sometimes between trend lines. I don't see any today here. No, I don't see any today. But you'll occasionally see them on trend lines do the same thing. It'll close like right there, and then the next bar will open, and it just kind of skips over that. I don't understand quite why it does that, but when I see that, I know that my lines are probably in the right place. And I think what it is most of your orders get above or below those levels, and there's not many orders right at those levels, and so that means a lot of people are seeing that, and that kind of justifies or lets you know that, hey, you're probably on the right track as far as reading it. So, but I did want to talk about those lines. They kind of junk it up, but they're important. And I don't talk about them enough, and I appreciate the trader reminding me to talk about them. And that was the thing yesterday. He reminded me that when we were talking about this level, 1983 yesterday, right across here, it's actually 1983 and a quarter. That is where I had the low of the range yesterday. I might have had it one tick lower because you get more touches and closes one tick lower. So I probably had it at 83, but my chart put the low previous. Oh, I'm sorry. This line is from the previous day, so it would be this line showing the low of the day. But that was the low of the previous. Well, that's correct. So that would have been the previous day's low. So that's an important area. This red line is the day before this day, so it's kind of confusing going back. But you see how important that area is. That held prices pretty much all day, and that's where I had. Um, I think I had mine at 1983, maybe one tick lower than that, but that's where I had my line. So make sure you're aware of those, and um, you can see those highs of yesterday, and that's where we found resistance today. And that was a good place to, take an aggressive short off of if you got the opportunity. But that is aggressive. Generally you want to wait on a second entry or a confirmed trend. I think that's the most, that's the safest way, the most conservative way to go to make sure. Of course, if you enter short right here and you're wrong, this is a little bit. This is about 3 ticks maybe. Uh, so you're risking a point or so to maybe get a point or two, depending on whether you're using runners or whatever. So low risk trade as far as risk to reward, and that's something we don't talk about a whole lot, but that's something to consider at all times. So, and I actually needed to circle this right here. This should all be in the lavender color, because look at that overlay. You don't want to enter out of that. Dangerous, dangerous, dangerous. And some people might even consider going short right there because it did trap people. But what usually happens is it ticks a tick or two out and bounces and goes higher again for your retest. This was really hard to catch this. And, I don't see a good way to enter short right here. It's not a fail. There's no, it's got people trapped to the long side, but most of them probably got trapped here and had to exit here. But I think this is where the only place you could enter safely was right here. And even then I questioned it because it was right at the midline. But you can't deny that trend line. You can't deny that there's your new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. So it's a failed. So when that ticked higher, it's a failed second entry short. Not a bad place to go to think about going short off that trend line, because you're probably headed down here anyway. And you don't know that it's going to take off like this, but I'm thinking, hey, you'll get a scalp out of this and maybe it comes back, but it doesn't. It just keeps going. So nice runners. And if you saw this and you took it, it was a little aggressive, but it was a pretty good trade. So nice job if you saw it. But let's talk about the trades and we'll wrap this thing up. The first trade I saw was right here. This is a two-legged pullback to the trend line. It's kind of iffy if you've got a trend line break in here. This actually closed outside, and then you went 2 legs down to a new low, and then it reversed. But a lot of times on range days, you don't get a retest. You just get a couple of retest attempts like right here, and it reverses. And just like it, but here you got a break and you got a retest attempt. It didn't quite make a new low, but it made a double bottom. That's close enough. So keep that in mind. And yeah, keep it in mind that if the range is taking precedence, these shorter term trend lines may not get a successful retest. Simple as that. But we do have a close outside based on the way I've got it drawn. And I believe that's pretty close to being right. But it's hard to say when you're watching it in real time because that's not a for certain clear trend line break. You could have it off just a little bit, but I believe that to be it. And then you got 2 legs down to a new low, and then you reverse. So, but notice this: you got a little move up, move back down, first entry pullback. But this is a little congestion area. It's a failed break out the top. And so it's a second entry short coming right off that trend line. Easy scalp, and then you don't get much else. And you get that little 1 tick trap right there. It goes higher. But I don't like that setup. I think you wait, and if you get a trap here, and you do get that here. But what I would do, when this broke higher above that bar, I'd use a limit order. And you could have gotten filled all the way back to the high of that bar right there where it closed. And then it takes off again. And that's how I would have entered. I would have liked it better if it had went lower and then went out the top side, but it didn't. And I don't think you can wait until this bar. I think you're too late then. it would have worked, but how many times does it not work? You get just enough for your scalp, and then you're gone. So, and then you get this. This is actually a two-legged pullback to the EMA, but we made a new high there. So I didn't like, and this is not a very good bar. So count that as your new high. Pull back first entry, and then it pulls back again, and it breaks lower first, and then heads higher. Just, it's a little risky going long at the high, but it's coming right off the trend line. That's a sure thing. You got one big leg. You're probably going to get another. You're probably headed here or maybe here, and it goes pretty quick move, and then it finds resistance right here where you'd expect. Was it going to get through there? You don't know. There's actually a second entry long right there, but you can't go long in that stuff. If you did go long there, if you got fooled, with it being that close to those highs, when this ended as a doji, just get out. Just take your break-even trade or your, a -1 or lose your tick and wait, because you got another chance to get in here. And even this one, let me move this out of the way, it broke lower and it couldn't get out the top, so that worried me a little bit. So when it broke higher right here, the only way to enter this is with a limit order. And you could have, sorry, I had an interruption, but when it didn't break higher, when it broke higher, I used a limit order and put it back right at the high. That green filled it, easy scalp. And even if you got filled right at the high, you would have gotten out. But that's the only way I would enter that one. You're better off to wait on the second entry, which never comes. And then you get the short here. You got a new high, pullback, first entry, pullback, and a lot of people were guessing that it was going to bounce there, and they were wrong. And off it goes. And, like I said, you don't know you're going to get this big move, but you figure you'll get a scalp out of that trap. And it turns out that they just trapped everybody. This really trapped a lot of people, probably. And then some more that didn't get out here got trapped, and then they trapped some more right there, and then they just keep running it down. And that's the same thing they did. They trapped people at the low here, and they run them all the way back up, run their stops, and now it may sell back off again. It's just, that's what they love to do, and once you understand the tricks they play, this gets a lot easier. But notice the lows here. We actually bounced a little early. You get your break of your little trend line here. Attempt to move to a new low twice, and then it reverses. I just would go long right there on the stop. Easy entry. And then you get another fail. Notice the new low, first entry, pull back, second entry, failed second entry short. And you can count a double bottom both ways. This can be your new low, or you can count this as your new low. But with that right there at the EMA, trapping people like that, I like going long there. And then if you count this as the new low, then you get a first entry, pull back, second entry. Again, this is a little bit kind of congestive looking, but when you see this bar right here, I felt pretty confident we were coming back to test these highs, and that's exactly where we went. This one's right off the trend line. If we'd been right here now, I'd say no, don't risk it. Just like right there, you notice there's no trade. You don't want to risk it right there at those highs again. And same thing here. Even though this, even though this doesn't look like a bad setup, it's too close to those highs. And look what happens. They beat it back down again. But then they bring it down and they get that little one tick trap and just go long above that bar, because these are high. And I love these things. We've talked about them. There's been some just about every day lately, and it's an easy trade. And then again, we talked about this one, a little aggressive, but if you understand what's going on here, there's some reasons to take that trade. You've had your break of your trend line, you've got your move to a new high. That's an important resistance place, an important level on the chart. It's probably going to reject prices, even if only temporarily. Because that's where the original sell-off started from. There's always going to be some leftover orders that didn't get filled that might still be sitting there. And so that's kind of the thinking behind that. But that's what I saw today. I'm not going to drag this one out anymore. Just remember those previous days, open highs, lows, closes, and the current day, open high, lows, and closes, they're always important points. Don't trade off them blindly. even though this is a little bit blindly trading off of it, there were other reasons to take that trade, and it's pretty high probability. But if you don't understand it, don't just take a trade off of it because it's the low of the day or the previous day's low or the high of the day. Make sure you know what you're doing. And that's the reason I'm hesitant to kind of talk about that trade, but I still think it's important, and eventually you need to learn that. So there it is. But I'm going to wrap it up for the day. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.